Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Jason Hunt here, inviting you to join us every Saturday morning for news. The week's headlines in science fiction, fantasy, horror, comic books, video games, plus Comic-Con updates and the weather, and the occasional interview along the way. We call it Good Morning Multiverse. We hope you join us every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, right here on Sci-Fi For Me TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show Mr. Luke Stone.
Thanks for having me. I like this thing you got going on. This is nice.
Yeah, I just wanted to play with something to kind of make it comic book like, and I've got one for 2 people. I've got one for 5 people. There's not a whole lot of room to play with for 3 and 4. Apparently, when I try it, it's just the way the StreamYard arranges the blocks. It just doesn't quite look right yet.
No,
I'll work it out.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it looks pretty good though. Yeah, it's pretty neat.
I tried to get usually when I think about it, I have the time. This big panel right here below me, I'll cut that out and I'll try to replace that with a similar sized panel from our guest's book, so that there's something there with it. But tonight, no panel for you.
Yeah.
No soup.
No panel for me. Yep.
You are a busy guy though. You've had the hybrids book that you've been pushing real hard, and it's now not in demand but still for sale through the Arrow Comics site.
Yeah, the new one is not. The new book, issue 9, will be on my website probably in a few weeks. I want to make
now,
sure.
Is this the website we're going to be talking about, or is this a different website?
Different website. My website, Luke Stone Studios. I should clarify. I've got a lot of websites. 2
barely keep track of one.
Yeah, so I've got my Luke Stone Studios website. I'll be selling them there. And then one of the special covers will be available over at arrowcomics.store. So yeah, but no, yeah, we've got all these books going. It's a never-ending cycle. We
Well,
get done with one book, we go to the next.
that's business. You know, that's how you keep
It
the money
is.
coming in.
Well,
So
yeah,
the
you
Arrow
try.
deal is the Arrow deal sort of, is that something that came together after the whole I can't remember the name of the campaign now, where everybody teamed up and sold their
Long
books together.
shots.
Yes,
Long
the long
shots.
shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got it. I
Uh,
just couldn't remember the name.
well, I had started working with Randy right before we got sick. Um, Kind of the reason why the long shots exist. The reason why it existed was I teamed up with Randy at that point, so he kind of
Yeah.
became my publisher. I just closed down. I was considering keeping Terraform Comics running, but I had decided to that the guy that had kind of hijacked the brand had done so in such a way that it just kind of tarnished it. And so rather than try to rebuild the brand, the way I wanted to, I just decided to, we'll just dissolve that corporation and we'll just start publishing under Arrow
Start a new one.
Comics, which
Sometimes
has
it's
been
best
really
to
good.
start fresh.
It is, Randy was getting ready to revive Arrow, and so it was nice to be a part of that. So I've just been helping him, and so the ArrowComics.store come about because we have all these books now. He decided just to keep doing it after that deal fell through. We found out, what we found out about it. Yeah,
Yeah,
so he just
long
decided to keep it
story.
going. Long story, yeah, just
It's in the
not a
playlist,
story I
folks.
care to.
Scroll back, you'll find it later tonight.
Yeah, it's not really a story I care to. I keep reliving, to be honest with you. And
Sure.
so you know, we just kept having all these plans, kept making books, and now it dawned on me we need a way to sell these books. We could go through Diamond and things like that, but um, nothing's going to beat direct to customer or direct to retailers. We try to keep as much of the money in our own hands and try not to give too many middlemen a little slice of the pie. So we can lower the price to retailers if we do direct through our own distribution site. And so I had a thought. I was in the middle of the night, had this thought. Oh, we need to do that. Before I forget, let me buy a couple domains. So I bought a couple domains, and the one we wound up sticking with was arrowcomics.store because we have .com, which is ran by one of the former partners, but he's just too busy to keep it updated. So we do the .store to deal with the distribution side of things. So yeah,
Makes
that's
sense.
yeah.
Still the same company. Um,
Yep.
Well, is there a cross link so that if some retailer, does the natural thing and says arrowcomics.com, a link that says,
Not
"Hey, are you trying to
yet.
order? Go here."
Not yet. Hopefully we can get that up soon. Like I said, the guy, obviously he's doing a lot of full time work now, and so he's pretty busy.
Yeah,
He's got a pretty important job, so he doesn't get a chance to edit the site very often. It's
that would be an important button to put on there because once it's there, it's there.
really
You don't
is.
ever have
Yeah,
to maintain
yeah,
that.
yeah. So that's what we're trying to do. Just get a backlink from there over to the .store, so that we can manage inventory and stuff like that. So, yep.
Okay. Well, a website's good for retailers to go to and order directly from, and like you said, skip Diamond,
Mm-hmm.
skip
Yep.
Penguin Random House, be your own distributor. What kind of marketing plan have you guys put together so that retailers are aware you even exist?
That's a good question. We've been working on a few things. We're planning on doing a pretty busy social media marketing next year. Once we're kind of a little more in swing with things. And hold on, my daughter's dog loves her pop, so she's got to come up
Oh,
and visit me. Little
we love
Pomeranian.
good. We love dogs on this show. Cats too.
Yeah, yeah, dogs are sweet. So yeah, we're gonna be doing that. We are in the process of working up a video, that talks about some of the titles and the website to go to So we're trying to get that done before the first of the year. But we're gonna roll out this stuff as it goes. We're planning on making the rounds and doing a lot of visits at different podcast live streams, things like that, and we're gonna do um, press releases and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
gonna take time. It's nothing that's gonna happen overnight. We are also working on a preview PDF that we can send out to different retailers so they can look through what we're offering, a couple pages of each one, and what the retail discount tier would be for them.
Yeah, because at some point you're going to have to get to the email and possibly even old school mass mailing, of catalogs and stuff.
Eventually, yeah. I mean, yeah. It, we're going to try to keep it as modern as we can for as long as we can, but at some point we'll have to trickle down into those areas of communication. We're not going to waste our time on not doing that. We need to make sure we're trying to reach as many people as we can. Yeah.
I know the shop near me now. Granted, I'm in Northwest Arkansas. You're lucky we wear shoes to go somewhere, but I know that he does not have any social media presence. Does not really get on the web. Doesn't follow stuff. Orders strictly out of paper catalogs and calls it in.
Yeah.
So those stores still exist, and he's got a pretty big store.
They do. Yeah, I know some of them do exist. It's probably limited if they're just sticking to Diamond's catalog.
No, not just Diamonds. I mean, he's got a lot of catalogs.
Okay.
This guy's probably got the widest array of independents I've seen outside of Cosmic
nice.
Comics and Belleville, who we advertise on the show here. So he's got rows and rows of new issues every week.
Yeah.
But he's the only guy working the place too, so he never leaves.
Yeah.
So he doesn't. That's all he does: sit behind the counter and work the catalog every day.
It just lives there. Yeah.
Yeah.
God
Yeah,
bless
he
him.
lives there.
Yeah. God bless the guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's in the works, but you're also while you're out buying websites, you're buying one called Fund My Comic, which is going to be that's a narrow niche for what you're wanting to do, because it's it's funding. It's very specific funding.
It's very specific. We're going to focus on comics and games. I've had some people ask, well, will you do other things? I'm like, yeah, honestly, you can do anything on there. It's just going to fundmycomic.com. So I was in the process of building crowdfunding to where I could do it from my own website. And I'd found a company that would allow me to lease their code. So it's their IP, their proprietary coding, but I could lease it. And so I leased it, and got an account with them, and then was able to build this site. But then they had a widget feature where I could import that into my own site and just have it run on one of my pages. Well, I had done that, tested it out with one campaign, and it worked very well. It was very successful as far as the test goes and funding and all that. So I decided to do another. We started running into, when I was getting ready to launch book 9, all that issue with Indiegogo and shadow banning and stuff happened. And so some people had encouraged me, because I told them, it's like, look, I'm building this thing, but it turns out that I can host up to 50 different people with it. So not just me running campaigns, but other people can run. I can have sub-users, and you guys can do it as well. And I was just planning on using that for me and my tribe kind of thing. Any of my friends wanted to use it, they could. And, keeping a close eye on my front yard, if you will. And so they'd encouraged me to do the, to kind of make it more of a thing, and to maybe launch for my own site. And so I did. I bought, I kept trying to figure out what to name the site. I had no idea what I was going to call it. And Fund My Comic turned out to be available. fundmycomic.com. And I was like, is there a more perfect domain for this? I don't think so. So I bought fundmycomic.com, tried to get it linked up, so we got it, got it going over there. And I had wanted the developers to add one thing. I said, everything's working fine. I just want a shopping cart feature so that the backers can choose multiple tiers to go into their cart and they check out. And they said, yeah, no problem. We've built that code for another site. It won't be difficult to do that. It will take some time to implement it into your site. So we have to charge you for the hours that it would take to do that. $100 an hour. They said it's going to be 6 hours. Like, okay.
We've already built it, but we got to build it again. I know how software is. It's what I do.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah. So I'm like, okay. Well, all right. So I paid them the money. They install the code into my dashboard so that I can do it. They test it. They say it works. I go and I test with one of the old campaigns, and I'm like, okay, shopping cart feature is working. Yeah, it's all going into the shopping cart. And, did a couple of tests with some digital things, and it worked. Everything worked fine. Did it with the, the test mode, and then did it live mode so that what I didn't check was shipping. I didn't check that because I didn't think I had to.
Yeah, I'm looking for a good shipping module myself.
Yeah, so I was like, well, everything's supposed to work. So they said everything works. Everything seems to be working here. We get to the Tuesday night launch, and we've got people watching. We've got a lot of people watching the stream. One of the most watched live streams that I had, in a long time. And we get going, and we immediately notice a problem. That people they're like, hey, it didn't charge me shipping. I'm like, that's really strange. So I went in and I checked why it didn't. And then in the process, I realized it wasn't charging shipping because it was counting everything that got put into the shopping cart as a direct contribution, which is what they call a donation. So it wasn't even tracking the inventory that was attached to each tier. So I didn't know what items were being picked. So there would have been no way.
You just had a pile of money.
Fulfillment.
Yeah.
With no shipping and no way to manage fulfillment whatsoever. And so we got it stopped after the first 5 backers. I just said, okay, well, I guess that'll be the night. We finished doing the closeout for Rift Riders. The next day, I was in contact with the development team, and they said, yeah, well, they will look into it. And they got back to me and said, well, it's going to be another $2,000 to make all that work. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. What? They said, well, the feature you wanted to work, it worked. It went into the shopping cart. I said, yeah, but it broke all the other ones.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, well, you didn't say that you wanted those to work.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This
so
is.
I fought with them a little bit, and then I decided that, you know what, that's just arguing. That's not what I do. So I'd gotten in contact. Actually, Ray Haylock, Tug's web guy, had contacted me. He was there the night all that broke. And so he came on the stream. We talked about it. The next day, he messaged me. He says, I don't, hey, what's going on? I tell him what I'm learning. And he goes, well, it's a lot more than $2,000, but I had wanted to do something like this. And I actually have a developer friend who can do it, but he has to be paid to get it done. And it's just not been something that's been on my, my to-do list because I don't have the resources to do it right now. He said, but if you were willing to, he could just build fundmycomic.com, and it would be more than 50 people that could use it. It would, I mean, we're talking thousands, potentially millions of people that could use it, because it would be built from the ground up, with everything that we wanted, plus basically functionality of Indiegogo, with its own servers globally. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe schedule a meeting. Because I was like, I kind of like the way that sounds. Because,
especially scaling up to that many, unlimited number of users.
Yeah, I was like, I like the idea of that. And so he set the meeting. I talked with the guy, and we made an agreement. And so I got a little bit of a discount, because he's going to maintain ownership of the code. I get to use the code for the rest of my life, but he owns the code. It's not like he's writing it for me and he can never use it again. So essentially, what's going to happen is that code will be used for my comics and games. But if there's other crowdfunding, or like other businesses or non-for-profits that want to add crowdfunding into their own site, they can use that code. They can go to him and license it. So essentially, he will be that other developer's competitor. He will be that other developer's only competitor.
Oh, wow.
And I like the way that sounded.
He'll be able to send this to, churches could license this to raise funds for things. Fund My Movie could be a thing.
Fund My Movie could be a thing. So somebody could, they just can't do comics and games.
Yeah, because
they have to, because...
Well, now, is that the kind of exclusivity you've got? I mean, if somebody wanted to have a comic book fundraiser, they couldn't license it from him, say, hey, I want the same thing Luke's got?
Nope.
So you've got the exclusive lock on the comics and games portion of this.
I've got the exclusive lock on the comics and games portion of it. Yeah. Okay. For the rest of my life.
So even if somebody said, I need a generic fundraiser or I need a generic crowdfunder, and they just want on like crowdfunder.com or raisemoney.com, people could go and they're like, you can fund anything, but they wouldn't be able to fund comics or games.
Not using his code, no.
That's a sweet deal.
It was a real sweet deal. And so there was a lot of other sweet things about it, to the point to where I was like, well, poor people buy stuff, middle class people buy liabilities, and rich people buy assets. And I started to think about it. I'm like, this is expensive, but this is an asset.
Yeah.
So this is... So I guess if one day I'm ever going to be rich, I have to buy assets, right?
Yes, you do.
So there we go.
You have to do what rich people do.
So this is,
So this being, you purchased this code or leased this code. So you got to,
I'm paying for the code to be developed. It's being built to my... That's the other fun thing. The beta, which will run beta for a year, it's being built to my specifications. And by my specifications, I mean things that I wanted. But I also did a Twitter poll. I don't know if you remember that a while back. A couple weeks ago, I did a Twitter poll asking the community what they would want. And we took all of their feedback, put it in a document. And right now, all but 2 features that were put in that original document are going to be used for beta. The other 2 features are going to be rolled out with the next phase of the website. That's going to include a couple of other things where we integrate shipping and things like that into the software. What we would like to do is for people to be able to integrate their fulfillment process through fundmycomic.com, so that they can print shipping labels directly from their dashboard and do fulfillment directly that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Because that's what I would like to do. The fewer things I've got to log into, the better.
I completely, I agree with that. My day job is like, it's a very secure environment. So I was like, I log onto the laptop, then I log onto the network, and then my phone buzzes, and I have to go through the dual authentication on the phone, and then I get to
Yeah.
authenticate finally on the laptop one more time. I was like, oh, I hate this, but you know,
Yeah.
it's a secure thing. And
It
speaking
is.
of
Yeah.
security,
Glad
who's
you
in
brought that
charge of
up.
the security? Is this going to be his job to handle security in case, God forbid, you get hacked, or is that on you?
No, that is on the developer. It is very secure. So the when Ray creates a website for somebody, it is done on these servers. Okay. And so he does Tug, that Umbrella Guy's website, who has constantly had bad players trying to get his information. Because Tug's made some powerful enemies because of
Yep.
his truth that he speaks.
I didn't even know he
And
had a
so
website. I just thought he had the YouTube channel.
he's got a website. Yeah, their bill. They got a website. So things like that. So they so that's what my first thing was like. Security has to be a big deal because there's a good chance we're going to get a lot of CG involvement because it's gonna be a very neutral ground for people. Uh, the only we're not going to censor things, and the only censorship that's going to take place is whether it's legal. If someone breaks a law, we're not going to allow it. But everything else, we're going to make sure that it's taken. That you have complete freedom um, to present your work the way you want. That's our
Okay,
plan.
so as long as it's not so if somebody wanted to do like the original Barbarella style book where she gets naked a lot,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
that'd be an okay comic there.
they can do it. Yeah, we're going to have content ratings. So when you're building your site, when you're building your campaign, you can say whether or not it has mature content, and if that content feature and why it's mature, whether it be for violence, blood, nudity, sexual content, those kind of things, so that the users when they come on to back a book can filter the kind of content that they want, so that you don't have kids running across boobies, and you don't want them to run across boobies, right? Or if you have someone that doesn't want to see those kind of things, they can filter their searches by the content. So we allow you can do anything you want on there within the law, right? And so as long as it's not breaking the law, you present your work the way you want to. You do have to do a little self policing, if you will, by being honest about the rating system on what kind of content your
Sure.
book has. But that way, that's responsibility. That's just being responsible for a public forum like this. So yeah,
And I would imagine that some of it's also on the side of the user logging in with self authentication.
yes,
Assuming
yes,
you have a credit card, you must not be 13. Therefore, you're not going to be
right,
defaulted
yeah,
to seeing some of this stuff.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's going to be, you know, and we're debating. We're talking about, whether there's a dark side of the site versus what you first see when it pops up. You know, that it's like, well, let's go behind the beaded curtain, if you will.
Yeah, on my
So
comics after dark.
yeah, so we're kind of debating on exactly how we want to present that, but we're excited about being able to give people complete freedom of expression. So
Hey
that's
DG, we
that's big
started
with us.
late too, so you're doing fine here.
Yep.
All right, so complete freedom of expression. I like the
Yep.
sound of that.
Hmm.
Um, Next question on this. Let's say you've got the next big thing is on Fund My Comic. I mean, you got somebody who's hit the six figures, young lady, and it's still got time to go.
Yep.
Who's bonded in this instance to be responsible for the money until until fulfillment is done and
Good
dispersed?
question. Each time someone creates a campaign, an account, there's an escrow that's created for that, and so it is actually going into a bank account
Okay.
that is, insured, and it's safe and secure. So those funds will be taken right away from the backers, from the users, and they will be immediately put into an account. Those accounts will be managed by Stripe, just like Indiegogo does, just like Kickstarter does. So we use the same processing engine as the rest of them. But it goes directly
more like
into
Indiegogo, less like Kickstarter.
Yes, because Kickstarter will take at the end, based on the information. This will take right away. So it's more like Indiegogo in that respect. So
I've never understood why Kickstarter doesn't take it right away, because you would think that would be 30 days of holding money that you're gaining interest on, which may not be a lot for a $1,500 campaign until you multiply it across 750,000 users doing the same thing.
Exactly. That's right. You know, I think maybe when they started out, they didn't want to be responsible for holding money for a campaign that wouldn't fund, you know, because that could get a lot of money. And then they're going to be responsible for those transactions to refund. But, you know, Stripe allows you to refund without fee.
So when you're going to have a campaign fund, how flexible is that? I mean, do you have, how Indiegogo has the, hey, it's flexible or it's hard. We have to hit this goal, or we don't care if we hit the goal or not. You're just buying a comic.
We're going to allow both of those options as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like what I'm hearing. I like the IT that I'm hearing about the security and then the funding.
Yeah. So we're going to have fixed and flexible goals, and we're going to have in-demand features as well. Basically, if Indiegogo has it, we're going to do our best to have it at beta. So that's kind of our base. And then we have that list of extra features. And so the extra features are basically what we're going to be doing on top of what this site is going to do. So you're pretty excited about that. One of the things is it's going to be really easy to tell if you've backed a project or not. Like we want to have it, if you're logged in and you've backed a project, it in some way identifies that for you when you're looking at a project again, that you've already backed it. Yeah.
And then of course that doesn't prevent you from rebacking it.
You can back it as many times as you want to. Yeah.
Okay.
Where Kickstarter makes you adjust or manage your pledge, you can pledge as many times as you want with this. But you will be able to easily know that you've backed it.
Yeah, one of the things I like about Indiegogo is the flexibility of the backing. I've seen people recently, like within the last 6 months, everything's just an add-on, and what you buy is an empty paper sack for $10 shipping, which is what you have to have a physical in order to get to the add-ons. So they're like, here's a bag. You're buying the mailing bag for $10. Then you just go to the add-on and you start shoving things in it. So it's completely a la carte. Is that something to be able to do? Or we even have add-ons?
Much better. Much better. We're not going to even do add-ons. Like that's the whole idea is that you're going to be able to do everything a la carte. So you're actually going to be able to set up your campaign like you would your store. This book is this price with this amount of shipping. This book this price with this amount of shipping. And so then you put them all together, and then it puts it together. One of the things we're working on is how we manage shipping based on that. Because a lot of people will charge like a $10 shipping for a single book, with extras and things like that. And then add-ons will have a lower shipping cost. We're going to be a little more sophisticated with how we handle that. So that's still part of the
I've been developing one. Yeah, I've been developing one myself because I'm a software developer, database developer, and of course I do a lot of shipping. That's kind of our moneymaker now. And I'm like, I want to be able to say, here's the items, and I'm using my Square store as a coding sample on this one because I have a Square account, and it'll let me say, here's the item, and here's the weight of the item. So what I'm working on now is saying, okay, take all those items, add them up, add 5.7 ounces to it because that's a Gemini with label and tape and everything. And then say, okay, now go to the mailing tables, and if everything's media, use these numbers. If it goes into priority, use these other set of numbers, and then kick me back something that's automatically calculated, right-sized shipping. It's a lot more complicated than it sounds, and it sounds complicated
It
enough.
is. It is complicated, but that's what we're trying to do is a weight-based shipping rather than just a fixed shipping. So that's one thing that may not happen in beta, but it will happen in phase 2. That's the tough list in phase 2. So
I
yeah,
would
so
love to
that's
help
kind of
test
the
with
shipping
that.
stuff that we're working on. So yeah, pretty excited about that feature coming out. But yeah, it really is about trying to make it easier for the creator and the fans so that they can, save money where they can.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that that has to be sold up front to get people to use it is trust in the system.
Yes.
When Eric July's launch happened, I was there first day and I was watching it day one. I didn't order because I ended up not trusting the system because I was
Yeah.
clicking on an item and then going to the next phase and it's showing an address that wasn't mine because I hadn't even asked for my address yet. And I'd go back and come back in and it would show items that I had not ordered. And I'm like, oh no, this is a mess. I'm not touching it.
Yeah.
So I backed out. But, that was also an overtaxed server because it was a really overhyped project and people just kind of slammed the system all at once.
Yeah. And it, I think it's just a WordPress website is what it was.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Bap. Glad you're here,
So
man.
yeah. I mean, this is
So
not
what's
a
your
WordPress
rollout
website.
plan? Yeah, good. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good. It's
this is
a
not a
home
WordPress
built
site.
and
Yeah. Well, right now the developers are telling me that it should be done very, very soon. Like we haven't got a concrete date because they're still working on some stuff. The goal is to have our soft launch sometime around Christmas, and then by the first of
that's a
the
month
year,
away.
less than a month. Yeah.
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 So do you have a campaign in mind that this is going to be the inaugural campaign as sort of a soft launch test?
We don't. It's going to be one of mine, probably. I've got a couple other people that are waiting for the, they like I'm just
I know
launching on
one.
Fund My Comic. I know one.
I
Yep.
I
Out
know
of
what we can
obscurity.
do.
Yep.
Yes,
Out of
out of
obscurity.
obscurity.
Here's what I
Okay.
like. Anything that I run, now platform fee is important to me. Um, all of the competitors that do this thing, it's 5% platform fee.
Right.
We're only doing 2.
That's a huge difference.
It
Um,
is 3% can
if,
make
if
a big difference on a campaign.
well, let's if for people who saying, yeah, 5 to 2, that's not a great big difference. That's 60% of the money that Indiegogo normally takes from you back to you. And if you've
Yeah,
seen that amount, just figure that out and realize how much more money you would have made on this.
yeah.
Um,
If you can, well, for instance, we had a campaign that did over 10,000, and they took almost between bank fees. Well, we had the bank fees taken out, but
yeah, Stripe's going to get their cut.
yeah. So you've got it's basically about 10% that you lose because Stripe is 30 cents per transaction plus 3%. So it equals out to about 5% really. And then
Right.
5% platform fee. On $10,000, it doesn't sound like a lot, but you're losing $1,000 off of that. So now it's 9,000 instead of $10,000 that you're
Yeah,
actually putting into the campaign to do things.
an
So
extra $1,000 back in your pocket is not chump change. I mean,
yeah, so we are trying to, we're trying to allow creators to have. I'm fiercely independent, and I want to allow other people to be that way as well. And the only way to do that is to keep more of your own money in your pocket. That's my that's
yeah.
my my thought on the whole thing. So
So speaking from and again, my background, 35 years in IT, database development, software rollouts. My guess would be that you're going to have the soft rollout with a launch of your own book, and then a controlled launch of let's do 3 or 5, and then okay, let's do 10, and then say okay, let's assume that it's working now. We've got all the bugs kicked out, free range,
we
everybody
we
log
won't
in.
we won't need to do that um, on that small of a scale. We won't need to do that. It'll be we'll work out with a couple of tests to make sure things are working. These guys are very good at what they do. This is not the first time they've built something similar.
Okay.
It is all of the pieces of the code, I guess, have already been kind of built and put to the side. They're writing some new pieces. That's why it can happen so quickly. But then it's just putting the puzzle together.
Assembling
it, yeah.
So what I heard you say earlier,
better than I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it connects a lot. It's modular, is what
Yeah.
they call it.
Yeah.
But what I heard earlier was like you said you'd be like, I want this book, and then I want this book, and I want this book. It sounds like it won't be the Indiegogo model of, hey, Tier A gives you the book, Tier B gives you the book and a bookmark, and Tier C gives you 2 copies of the book plus 2 bookmarks.
No, the idea was because, what I wanted to do on my own site was to remove that and do an a la carte system. Because I have so many people that are like, oh, well, I want this and I want that, but I can only get that from this tier, but I didn't necessarily want that from this tier. I really would rather have that from that other tier. And it just got so much easier. I'm like, let's just create an a la carte system for people where they can look through and I'm like, oh, I want that. Ooh, and I want that. Ooh, and I want one of those. Ooh, and I want, And then they fill their cart and they have one transaction. So it's 30 cents plus the 3%.
And a single shipping.
And a single shipping fee. Yep.
Now, since it is up front, you're funding it before it's a thing. You're not buying something that's already made. At least the way I understand it, because you're funding it, right?
What's that?
Well, like Indiegogo is like, hey, yeah, you're funding something that's not quite created yet.
They can do that.
Just
Yeah.
like Indiegogo.
They can still do that.
Okay, so if I came in and said, hey, I want that book and I want that bookmark, and I come back in 2 weeks because it's a 30-day campaign, I said, you know what? I really like that poster too. It's still going to get assembled to the same order, or no? It's another fee because
It'll be another transaction. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There's no way around that.
But shipping wise,
like going to any
it would
store.
be condensed.
No, because it would be a whole other transaction. It just like any other web store. We wouldn't be able to go and condense that down again.
Okay.
But if we can make it weight-based shipping, then it's going to be cheaper shipping. Even if we can't, it's fixed shipping. It can still be cheaper shipping. So
Herrenberg has the right idea here. He's saying just go to the Arrow Comic store, which is right here, and you can buy Luke's comic directly.
You can, yeah.
Where's my mouse?
Yeah, you can actually just pick it up from right there. Not book 9, not yet. Not for another couple weeks.
I had to find my mouse and then follow it across the monitors to make sure I didn't lose it. But yeah, there are the hybrids books that are currently out.
Yeah.
So
you can sort those by physical and digital as well.
Sweet.
Yeah, so if you go up to the top, you'll notice it's physical and digital. If you just want a physical book, it'll just show you all the physical books we have.
Yep. I'm going to have to go here and buy some more books too, by the way, because there's a lot of them that I don't have, and the ones I do have, I like. So
there's a lot of good books on there.
My collection. Okay, so what was I thinking about more on this? I was going to ask about stretch goals, but really that's a non-starter because stretch goals aren't controlled by the funding page. That's just hey, I made this much money. I am promised to throw something else in. Yeah. But in a way, it is. I mean, this is something now that people are going to have to think harder about because you have weight-based weight-based shipping.
We're really hoping to be able to have weight-based shipping in beta. We really are.
Yeah.
But it may be fixed. That's why I'm not promising weight-based shipping.
It can also be flexible. Pick which one you want to use because if you're going to have stretch goals, and those stretch goals are going to be like metal trading cards.
I'll give you an example of what I'm. I'll give you an example of what I'm doing or what I was doing on my last campaign that was on my site. Rather than throw stretch goals in with everything, I created a stretch goal tier, like a perk, to be added to the cart, which had an additional amount of shipping added to it and an additional amount of cost. To say, if you can get the book for $7, but if you want the stretch goals, go ahead and add the stretch goals for $3. That way you get them. If you don't want this, because some people don't want all the tchotchkes. They don't want any of that stuff. And they would rather not have it. And so we want to give people the option. And so that's what I was going to do. So and that was with fixed base shipping. So we weren't able to do weight-based shipping with the first iteration of it before we moved to this new developer anyway. So it was based on throwing that extra, that extra book on there.
George Peter Getz in the chat saying it sounds like just like his PayPal cart button, but the difference with PayPal is that this is a made thing, and you're selling it, and that's fine. You got a pre-made cart that PayPal handles. This is more for funding things that don't exist. So you've got that escrow account built into it. That if this was all going to be sell your comics that are already made, I'm sure it would be a lot simpler.
Well, here's the thing: there's no point for us to do that for people right now.
Because anybody can do it.
Anybody could set up a store on their website to do that, and we encourage people to do that. In fact, Ray's going to help people do that. We want this to be for funding and not for these long drawn out Indiegogo stores.
So once they're funded, they're off the site then. Well, they're not off the site, but they're closed.
Well, we're still playing with the idea of an in-demand feature, because right now people aren't set up to have their own stores. So we may keep that going for a while, but we're trying to encourage creators to be more independent with their sales. Now, at some point, we may create a distribution wing for this, where we've got all these great indie comics that have been funding on here. We might choose a couple to say, let's throw these over into, if that creator's willing to be added to a particular program where they offer their books at a discount to retailers, we may work our way into that eventually, not within the first 2 years at all. I mean,
hello, right here.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, it's something that I would want to do, so if it's something that I would find useful as a creator, and if retailers would say, hey, let me go to the site, look at what's there. Are they opted in to the retail side of things? That way retailers can order numbers of books at a discount directly from that site, kind of like what they would do from Diamond's website. And then those get shipped to them when the books ship. So we're looking at that. May be something that we implement down the road. It's on my wish list. So it may not be phase 2, it might be phase 3 that we start implementing things like that. But we've got to first make sure that the site is profitable, that it can maintain itself and then grow and have the resources to continue to build the new features. So I'm getting ahead of myself when I talk about stuff like that. But.
Well, and that's easy to do because the end game, and there's you skip over all the stuff that you need to get there because you've already thought it through. But yeah, you're not gonna be profitable probably for the first 2 years, because that's just
probably
the nature
not
of any business.
Yeah, we would like to be profitable by the end of 2 years, and by profitable I mean we would really like to have recovered our investment.
Yeah.
Which is,
it's going to be substantial.
I hope it's
now.
Not too much to ask. It's substantial, yes.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
And of course, Captain Finney's bringing up, when you talk about shipping, international shipping is,
Yeah.
Now, things have gotten better. A lot of people,
yeah.
have found ways to ship from the U.S. outbound at cheaper rates. But for those who are outside the U.S., that option doesn't exist for them. So that's still an issue for them. And that's one of the things we solve for them as best we can. I'm sure you're going to be you're going to run into the issue now where you are funding somebody who's not in the United States.
Yes.
They're in Europe and they're using your software. Now the shipping software's got to calculate, this is a completely different paradigm.
Yep, that's why it's a complicated thing to add.
Yes.
So
not,
it is something
not
that we want to do.
even counting the fact that currency changes every day.
Now, I do want to, Captain Affinity saying that they will have completed their book before selling. That is great. We encourage people to still use a crowdfunding website like this to manage their pre-orders for their sales if they need to. I'm trying to get to the point where I don't have to do that. If I've finished a book, I can just go to my website for pre-sales. But the problem is traffic and awareness. That's why we use Indiegogo.
And
because
this is
they have an
your own
audience.
website.
This is my own website, yes. And so
I find the right button here. So this is, once you're not funding on a website anymore, a funding website, you bring the completed projects over here.
I do,
and people can buy them here, or they can buy them on Arrow. You're available in multiple places now, just as though you were available on a comic store. And that's what Sick Media is getting to. Is like, do you ever get nervous pitching your comic book to a comic shop to sell your comics?
Every time.
Every not time. You've got 9 of them. You walk into a store with a stack, and I said, "Look what I made."
I mean, I've got more to show now, but it still is going to come down to whether that store owner, number one, is compelled by my storyline. Number two, is finds the art attractive, and number three, doesn't have a problem with my politics, because they care about that stuff now. Apparently,
they do, and they'll ask you up front about it sometimes.
They will. They'll ask you right up front. Yeah. So,
and it's real hard to predict.
Yeah.
Tell them when they ask. It's real hard to predict what a retailer likes. I've taken, we've got overstock on hand for people that we've fulfilled for. And part of what we do is we show it to retailers and try to get it on the shelves. I've gone to retailers before. It's like, I've got a box of great stuff here. I'm walking out with an empty box. And I walked out with the retailer empty-handed. Nothing spoke to him. And I was like, okay, well, go to the next one. But,
it's dejecting when you take your heart and soul out in there to a shop and they say no. Because when you look at the foot traffic that happens inside of a store, there's just nothing that beats it, But we have to figure out other ways. I know some of the things that I've looked at with, some of my friends have looked at is putting up spinner racks in smoke shops, but the comics aren't moving. They're just not moving.
They're not moving.
If they were, they're just not moving.
In a grocery store. At the end of a grocery store checkout lane.
Maybe.
And that's impossible almost to do with Walmart or Target or someplace. But hey, if you have a local IGA or local grocery store that's not a chain, talk to the guy, work something out. Businessman to businessman. Ehrenberg's giving advice that you can get used to reciting that pitch to people at Comic Cons, and retailer's just another person that you're trying to make hope will buy more copies. Kind of reminds me of that scene with Superman and Batman, where Batman's getting ready to break into the White House, and Superman's like, "Really, the White House? Like, it's just another building, few more guards, few more locks. Retailer's just another customer, a few more comics, a few more outlets to put them on." So don't be cowed by that.
Traffic analytics for IGG, I guess they're pretty accurate. I'm not certain, but those analytics don't mean a darn when they're shadow banning you.
Yeah. And here's the thing I don't get about IGG. Apparently, Apparently, it's a TOS violation for the people who were shadow banned. That's what's being
A what
claimed by
violation?
a TOS violation.
What's that?
That's what's being claimed by some people. Terms of service violation.
Terms of service violation.
Because some of these campaigns, they said,
I promise
"Hey,
you that's not it.
here's our other campaign."
I promise you that's not it.
It can't be it.
Because I do that crap all the time. I've built my entire platform on doing that. I cross-promote. You've always cross-promoted. In fact, we used to do an update share back in the day. Another campaign was running, and you're running. What you do is say, "Hey, look, I need a little boost. I can give you a boost. Let's share each other's link in our updates." We've been doing that since 2015.
But if you link outside of IGG to say, "Hey, this last campaign is available now over on Zoop," or buy it on Amazon.
I link it to my website and Kickstarter all the time.
Well, there you go.
And I've done it in the last 30 days.
It might be a situation of something like, well, that's great. That's the thing though, is like, if it was a TOS violation, like I've seen people with Kickstarter TOS violations. Guess what? Kickstarter says, "Hey, you violated our TOS. Here's where you violated our TOS. Go fix it and everything will be fine."
Right.
They didn't say, "Oh, you violated our terms of service." Rather than tell you, "We're going to play this stupid little cat and mouse game to amuse us, where you can't be searched by anybody, and we're not going to respond to any of your queries." That's infuriating on IGG's part.
It is, and sadly, what's happening? Yeah, and sadly, what's happening is they're not saying why, and it's not consistent. For whatever reason, people are getting shadow banned or their funds are being withheld. It's a mystery. Yeah. It's just a mystery. It feels a lot like...
I've reached out directly to their chief finance officer and their chief marketing officers, and neither one of them will reply. It's a dead drop.
What it reminds me of is, all this information coming out about, the Hunter Biden laptop thing on Twitter and how Twitter worked. Like, well, we're going to say that it's this, and this is why it's being... And so we're just saying now it's just terms of service. They don't know why they're banning it. They just know they're banning it. They know why they're banning it, why they are doing it, but they don't know how to tell people why they're doing it. Frog G should have never been banned.
No, there's nothing, absolutely not.
Nothing about that campaign that would have been banned, outside of the fact that it was talked about on almost every Comicsgate outlet.
My thought on it was that there's an outspoken Comicsgate person who I believe now has a lawsuit against IGG for having been deplatformed, and that lawsuit was filed about 3 months ago, give or take some weeks. And the lawyers at IGG might be saying, to show that we're not discriminating against this person based on race, let's find other people who are like this person in groups and hit and miss shadow ban some of them, so we can say, no, look, see, it's a policy. It's not a racial thing.
It just happens.
Just happens sometimes.
To do with your ethnicity. Yeah.
So this is some of the iconography and layouts that will go that people might see on Fund My Comic.
Yeah, this is the logo that you'll see on pretty much everything. This will go on pretty much everything. Well, let me not start there. Let me start here. This is your go to fundmycomic.com. This is what it'll bring up. It's going to look as close to this as we possibly can. Obviously, these campaigns will be different. These were just campaign images.
Placeholders.
Placeholders. Like Chainsaw Man has nothing to do with the site. The designer that did it just happens to like Chainsaw Man. He was dreaming that, maybe Chainsaw Man could be on the site. So
I'm waiting for the day that somebody starts to inject some big mangaka starts to crowdfund manga.
Yeah, that would be cool, wouldn't it? All right, here we go. This is what I wanted to show you. So this is the higher res image. So yeah, this is your not a whole lot of things to have to click on here. But right now there will be some additional things once we incorporate the ratings, the content information. So obviously, like when you do the search, a project, there will be some other fields to go through. We'll have what's new, things that have just launched as far as comics and games go. This is how it works. It's pretty easy. One of the interesting things that we do is we'll have some staff picks, but we'll also have featured items, featured projects. And those featured projects are actually going to be picked by the users. Right? There's going to be a way for them to have them boosted.
A popular vote.
Yeah, kind of like what you do on Twitch, where you can give a tip and it boost that stream into the algorithms so more people will see it. We're going to have a similar functionality. So, yeah. So basically you're just throwing a couple bucks at it to get put into basically on the advertisement reel. So you're helping the creator out by paying for premium advertisement. It's what you're doing for just a couple bucks. Great way to do it,
That's better than Indiegogo just saying, give us a tip. And
exactly. So it serves two functions. It actually helps offset some of our cost when we're only taking 2%. So number one, that's what it does. That money does go to the website. So it offsets that a little bit for us. But it's beneficial to both sides. It's not like an Indiegogo tip where it doesn't benefit anyone. The money goes to us, but it benefits the creator because the creator gets more eyes on them. That's how that works out.
I can dig that. I like that idea.
Yeah, that was actually not even my idea at all. It was the developers.
Oh.
Yeah. Dave was like, hey, I have this idea. And I said, that's genius.
Now, were your developers comics fans or crowdfunding of comics fans?
No, they don't really know a lot about that world. But they don't like large corporations and they hate Indiegogo.
Well, see, but that's the beauty of bringing in outside eyeballs sometimes, is that they're not used to seeing what we've seen in Indiegogo and Kickstarter for 5+ years now. This is how it is. How about this? Never thought of that. let's do that.
Yeah. So a brilliant idea. Absolutely love it. So next thing I'll show you is this is what a campaign will look like. That's for the phone. That's what a mobile view is. Let's go to the PC.
But it's good that you are planning ahead for mobile view. You've got the
the UI is already developed for mobile, which I'll show next.
Yeah.
So this is what it'll look like. The color scheme, and we are doing dark mode, which I think that's going to be really big in 2023. You're going to see a lot of sites doing dark mode. It's easier on the eyes.
It's easier on mine. I put everything in dark mode.
Yeah, since we spend so much time looking at screens.
Yeah. Plus, it doesn't light up the room at night when I'm on the phone.
Right, yeah. And so here you'll get the different tiers. And then you can just add those, choose tier, click right into your cart. This information right here obviously is user-generated content, just like what you get on Indiegogo, Kickstarter. And then here's similar campaigns. We will link up other similar campaigns right there on the page. And this is part of that premium advertising that we're talking about. If say there's 50 other ones, 50 campaigns that are similar. If you've boosted a campaign, it's going to make its way closer to the front of that list so that people will see it first.
Now, is similar going to be decided by an algorithm, or is it going to be decided by hey, most of the people who backed this campaign backed these campaigns in descending order?
But that's also an algorithm.
That is true, but there's there's
So the answer
algorithm of
is
sorting.
so the answer is yes. It's going to be an algorithm because all of this is ran by algorithms. Okay, we're not writing algorithms that are going to hurt you. It's going to be much more simplistic than all of that. They are going to be campaigns that have similar content.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of by algorithm. I know
right now.
Yeah,
It's
I
going
know
to be
bubble sort and descending sort is technically code, but I didn't know if they'd be like, if not, hey, they've all backed these, which is kind of like what Amazon does. But then there's also hey, this is an action, strong female lead 22 pager, and these are all action and 22 pager.
That's where we're getting it from. That's what it's come from, because the problem that I see with Indiegogo and things like that is it boosts. Let's say, for instance, I have a frog book. Okay. Now, let's say
Who doesn't?
EBS's book has a frog book, right? But let's say I have a book that's kind of similar to theirs. I don't have the audience that he does, right? But my book is similar to his. Now, if it's based on algorithms and what other people also bought that, the other people that also bought that probably bought Shane Davis's book, probably bought Mandy Summers' book, probably bought, again, all these people that already have these platforms, right? So what we want to do is actually if you like this book, this is the same genre, it has roughly the same kind of content, it is roughly the same size, it's the same kind of book, you might like this. That's kind of where that's coming from, because that's what we want to do. That's kind of the almost the building in of the buy one back one hashtag. It's like these are campaigns that here are titles that that you might like. They're similar. They're similar to this campaign. So not necessarily based on their traffic, but based on their content.
Okay, I can dig
Did I
that.
answer that question right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to code that, but
No,
that gets a little too AI for me, I think. But
yeah, it's gonna be figured out by the tags people put in for their comics. It's I think the only way that can work, it's gonna have to be.
yeah, fuzzy logic.
Yeah,
the
it's gonna
coders
have to
will
be.
understand that.
Yeah, that's not my job. It's my job
Right,
to say this
right,
is what I
and
want.
that's the cool thing about.
That's what I love about this.
Yes, the fact that you aren't sitting down and writing this with no code experience and trying to pull things off the internet.
Yeah.
You've gone out and hired a professional team that does this. This is their job.
Yeah, I'm a comic book artist. That's what I am.
Yeah, you draw the
I'm
pictures
making
that
comic
show up on
books.
here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm making comic books. That's what I'm making. They're making the website. I
I
tell them
sell
that
hot dogs. I don't make the microwaves. I cook them in.
Right. So, if you open up on your mobile, this is what it's going to look like. Going to be very similar. New comics, new games. It's just broken up in a little different format. Staff picks. And all that good stuff. The, where's that other one? There you are. If you're looking at the actual campaign itself, it's going to look like this. We will eventually have an Apple and an Android app. That's probably phase 3. It's very expensive to develop those apps. But we are going to integrate actual apps for this.
But the website will be responsive. So if you just go to the website through your browser on a phone, it'll show up this way automatically.
Yeah. So, yeah, it will be responsive to mobile or desktop. And so that's what you get. That's kind of the two views of the site, front door and back door. We haven't developed the interface, the dashboard yet. From when you sign in your building, like what that looks like yet. It's in process. Hopefully this week I'll get more updates on that. But a lot of that's going to have to be built around the functionality. Yeah, I think
one of the things I would like to see happen, and and let me get the chat here first here. A simple user base, easy tag system that works. The algorithm, I feel, ruins growth unless you're a big player.
It
I
does.
agree with all of that.
Yeah, it's gotta be
Once you're
tags,
so
I think.
big, you kind of swarm the algorithm.
Mhm.
One of the things I would like to see a platform like this do is educate the user on setting up their items, their SKUs. Because as a fulfillment person, I run into headaches now and then where, let's say, so like last year, I had a campaign where, hey, here's the book, and then if you buy it on this, tier A gives you the physical book, tier B gives you the physical book, but we'll sign it. Well, guess what? They used the same SKU in both tiers and just signed it based on what tier it was in.
Yeah.
Which the fulfiller doesn't know what tier it's in. He just knows,
No.
hey, this person's getting a book.
Yep.
Whereas
So
SKU one
what
being a book,
we're
SKU two being a signed book is different.
what we're wanting to do is educate people a lot with this, on how to be better at doing the crowdfunding thing. Like, hey, here's some best practices on setting up for shipping. Here's some best practices for setting up tiers and SKUs, like items. One of the suggestions is if you have an item that is signed versus one that's not signed, make them two different items.
Exactly.
You know, doing stuff like that, just to help them out. Because I believe, granted, we're going to have a lot of people that are going to already know what they're doing that will probably come to the site and use us as another option. Maybe not the first option. But there are going to be probably newer creators out there that may decide to use us as their only option to start with. Because that 2% platform fee really is really put there to help them.
Oh yeah.
The more money
Yeah, it's a lot
of theirs that they can keep, the better. That means they don't have to try to fund as high. And if we can help them understand, because we don't want people to be using the site, running campaigns and not fulfill. And one of the biggest issues with fulfillment is not calculating enough shipping.
Yes.
So people get to the end of it, they can't pay to ship it.
Even I had this problem, and I'm supposed to know shipping. When you determine what your goal is, now if you say, hey, to make this, I have to make $3,000 to cover printing and everything. You set your goal at $3,000. You'll notice that if you sell a $25 book on Indiegogo, and it's got $10 shipping, your Indiegogo total goes up $35 because it counts the shipping value into the total. Okay, that's
one of my stipulations is that it's only going to count the pledge amount, not the
because people were hitting their goal and not hitting what they needed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was a feature that I was able to do before on my other crowdfunding platform. So it's one I wanted to have here as well. As far as I know, it's like a real simple, easy click on, click off kind of thing.
Good.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing is a lot of thought has gone into this, and a lot of rethought.
A whole lot of thought. It might sound like this is something that we just did overnight, but I started working on having my own crowdfunding option from my website when I got out of the hospital in January. So it really came down to with the thing that happened while I was asleep with the whole long shots deal.
Yeah, you want to be more in control.
I don't trust anybody, and so it's like I wanted to have that control of my own and do it. I like Indiegogo because it allows me to control my mailing list. So I get to have my mailing list, control those emails.
And there's another thing you got to consider now.
Yep.
You build a mailing list out of this. Be able to. I don't even know what you would want to coordinate with to send emails like the way Indiegogo and Kickstarter does in mass without triggering spam filters with your server.
Yeah,
It's
that's not my job.
nope, no, it's theirs. Make it happen,
I get it.
guys.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I mean,
It's a system.
part of it, emails have to go out, so they've got to fix it, make it
Yeah,
happen. That's what I love. Okay, it really hurt to write that, to send that, to pay that invoice. That hurt. I'm not gonna lie. I had like buyer's remorse, from it. I'm like, oh, just like I just feel sick.
yeah.
I just feel so sick right now. I can't believe this.
So you
And
got to see some checks come in now, and it's like, okay, this is some of it coming back.
yeah, but
Yeah,
it is nice to know that someone that knows what they're doing is making it happen. You know,
yes,
Ray, we know how qualified Ray is, and Ray said this is one of the best developers I've ever met, and I'm like, okay, well if you believe, Ray came with high endorsements from Tug and Lola, and so then I trust them. If they trust him, I trust him, and he trusts this guy. This guy's been nothing but great so far, and can't wait to see this site up and running. I can't wait till I can type in fundmycomic.com and I can go to that site and just
yes.
peter around it. Yeah.
Which we're expecting it to be in a month, less than a month by Christmas, and
Less than a
the
month. In
first book
fact,
we'll see on it will be
yeah, between you and me and who's watching right now,
nah, 5 people watching. They're not going to tell anybody.
I was told expect it the second to third week of December
Okay, so that's
to be
any
up.
time
Yeah.
now.
Anytime now. Anytime now. Yeah.
So is it going to be a hybrids book on the soft launch, or are you going to soft launch the Out of Obscurity title, or both, just
Out
to
of
make sure that
Obscurity.
you can keep things separate?
Both. We're gonna do an Out of Obscurity. Well, they're both gonna go to my bank account, my business
Well,
bank
yeah,
account.
but you have
Wait,
to
no,
keep.
that's right. Your Out of Obscurity is gonna go to your bank account for your business to manage fulfillment, right?
To finish fulfillment, yeah, but that happens
Yeah.
much later.
Yeah.
That's when the books arrive, and then
Yeah.
I figure out what it needs. I don't need the whole thing. No, I
Okay.
just need
All
the
right.
shipping portion. But
All
but
right. All
still,
right. We'll
it's
work on that.
good to have 2 of them so that you can make sure the
Mhm.
software says, I know that this money came for this project, and I know that this money came
Yes.
for this project, and we
Yes.
don't cross
Hmm.
the streams, Egon, because that would be
Yeah,
bad.
and I'll
Which
actually
is
have a
what I saw
third
with the
one
WordPress site.
later. Yeah, I'll actually have a third one in January because we're going to be launching the RPG on Fund My
Ah,
Comic as well.
try the
Yep.
game out. Yeah.
Hmm.
That sounds great. I'm in. I'll test it out. I'll help.
I'm excited.
Product test that by being a purchaser. Purchase
Thank you.
the comic I'm in, of course.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. It's a big
Uh,
deal.
bef- Before we close out, do you want to tell people a little bit about what this Out of Obscurity title is that we keep tossing
Sure,
around?
yeah. Out of Obscurity is a collection of public domain characters that have been written and kind of produced by, I think, some of the more notable up and coming people in independent comics right now. So pretty exciting stuff there. There's all kinds of stories that's in there. They're all based around a public domain character. You've got comedy, you've got horror, you've got action, you've got just about everything. And
Like
it's
the old anthologies of the Golden Age.
yeah, it really is. So the Out of Obscurity title came about because the characters are all public domain, so they're obscure, and a lot of the creators are on the more obscure side. So a lot of people don't know quite. They haven't really made a splash for themselves yet.
Some
So
of us have never written a comic before. I've
right,
written
yeah,
novels, but
yep. This is, yeah.
I tell you what, I found novels to be easier than writing a comic
Oh,
because I
so
would
much
write it
easier,
and I'm
aren't
like,
they?
oh, I got to draw it out. I've just got to.
Yeah, I actually write my issues in prose, and then I break those down into a comic book script. So I'll write each scene as a prose, and then just like you would in a novel, and and then and then I draw that out. So
Oh,
yeah,
I should probably try that, but for
yeah,
8
it's way
pages,
easier.
it wasn't going to be that big of a deal.
No, it's not been. Yeah.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. I love
DG
anthologies.
just told everyone.
They were
That's
my
fine.
favorite.
Tell everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was supposed to be a secret, DG.
But I mean, hopefully, I'm giving this information out soon. I'll be touching base with the developers tomorrow, and see where, see where we're at on a launch date and a test date, and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, we'll be testing it before we link the fundmycomic.com to it.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure.
So yeah, we'll be doing all the testing, and then like, okay, now let's set up the domain. Let's set up the DNS for it. So
This is
yeah,
going to
it's
be a
big steps.
watershed moment, I think, for the community.
I think so.
I'm sure it will work. Now we just have to, have adoption.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're gonna have glitches as we go. There's always little
to be
hiccups.
expected.
We know we're gonna have those. That's why we're
Indiegogo has
running the
those.
site as That's why we're gonna run the site as beta for the first year, before we say okay, it's because we're gonna work through that. Once we have a few hundred users, a few hundred campaigns running on the regular, then we'll start doing an A/B comparison with new features and things like that. So some users will be picked to run new features, like
Right.
Kickstarter did with add-ons. Some people were picked to do the add-ons, and so we'll do that with some of the newer features. But this is cool. I mean, it's gonna be awesome.
I can't wait. I'm there with you. All right, Luke, thank you so much for coming on
Thank
and
you.
sharing all this with us. This is
It's been
exciting.
fun.
I think this is going to be a lot of people are going to be talking about this. There'll be the naysayers, and there'll be the all for it, and just ignore it all and focus on making things.
Well, yeah, I can't listen to all that stuff. But I was told something. Some piece of advice came along. Get to the point to where they can't deny you, right?
Yeah.
And people can deny it right now. They can deny what we're doing. But if we get this thing to a certain point, they won't be able to deny what we've done with From My Comic. And so the idea is that even people that hate me will be finding their way onto the site to take advantage of those features and that 2% platform fee.
If it works, it works. You can't
Right, yeah.
deny that.
Yeah.
So,
If there's an audience there and it works, yeah, why not?
all right, fundmycomic.com coming soon to the internet
Yeah.
for everybody to use. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight. We do
thank
not
you.
have a show without you watching. We do appreciate it. Hope that you will share this out so that more creators will know that this is coming and they can be prepared for it. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.